Hello everyone, and welcome to the AFV and SiriusDecisions presentation, Give Partners What They Need When They Co-Market With You. Before we begin, there are a few announcements. The audience has been muted upon entering the conference call. If you have any questions during the presentation, we ask that you use the Q&A window to ask them. We value your questions and will respond to everyone at the end of the presentation. This will help preserve the flow of the session. The Q&A icon is at the top right corner of your meeting screen. The presentation will be led by Maria Chen, analyst at SiriusDecisions, Randy Sasaki, partner at AFV, and Greg Hammer, director of marketing at AFV. In today's session, we will discuss the trends in high-performance marketing, evolution in buyer behavior, and the organizational implications for partners. We will also review partner marketing trends, what partners want from their manufacturer channel programs, and AFV's marketing as a service model. With that, I'd like to introduce Maria Chen, who will begin our presentation.
Thank you, Laura. As Laura said, I'm Maria Chen, and it's my pleasure to discuss with you today empowering your partners to use marketing as a strategic weapon. I'm actually the service director at SiriusDecisions, running our channel marketing strategy service. And now, for those of you who may not be familiar with SiriusDecisions, we are a research and advisory firm that delivers the actionable intelligence, transformative frameworks, and expert guidance that equip executives to modernize and elevate sales, marketing, and product performance. At SiriusDecisions, we believe that the alignment of sales, marketing, and product is a delicate balance of art and science and the hallmark of high-performing organizations. It is this alignment that has allowed our clients to experience 19% faster revenue growth and 15% higher profitability. Our mission is to help our clients achieve this alignment through our work with hundreds of B2B organizations over the years. We continuously refine our approach and help organizations achieve alignment that impacts growth objectives. So I want to thank you again for joining us today. And without further ado, let's begin the presentation. I'm going to start from a summary perspective, going over what I'm going to share with you today. It's important to identify that there are some key issues. And if we look at it traditionally, this is not going to be news to anyone. Marketing and sales have not always been the best partners. Although both functions in this journey are in this journey together and they're reaching the target buyers, but we have traditionally not always seen that we're the greatest partners for one another. But because of the massive evolution that's going on in B2B marketing, it's really transforming the way that organizations go to market. And it's actually becoming more and more strategic. And channel marketing, more than ever, can contribute at a much higher level to the business and to the revenue that come from specific marketing tactics and campaigns. Today, I'm actually going to share with you some data and share some common set of characteristics of those organizations that marketing and sales are combining and actually acting as good partners, are actually outperforming their peers, and are really driving and improving their sales performance. You're going to walk away with some key insights and some of that data, and they're really going to help you identify and solidify in your mind what's driving this change out in the market. We're going to give you a list of some common characteristics and some examples about how organizations have taken these changes and are transforming beyond random acts of marketing and really taking a thoughtful and structured approach, and the difference that it can be seen using this approach to achieving and improving their results. So let's talk a bit about the trends that we're seeing in actual digital marketing. What we're finding is that it's becoming more and more personalized. I'm sure that you've heard the term persona out there. And so really what this is about being persona-based, personalized, and not product-based. It's literally the equivalent of a marketing selfie when you're being product-based. It's all about you and the organization. And so what this means is it's not one size fits all. And at SiriusDecisions, when we talk about personas, we mean the buyer, specifically in B2B markets. It's important to personalize that marketing, and actually selling for that matter, around the buyer's role, their individual issues, and their needs. So for example, marketing to a CMO is going to be very different than marketing to a VP or director of IT. It's about serving up content in digestible pieces so that the personas can take that content, use it when they're using it when and what they're looking for, and then find it in the common watering holes that they go into looking for this and accessing this information. So what's important to them in their social network. And it's being directed at the right time to go through a decision gate or serving up that content and information so that they're no longer looking for large, in-depth information, but it's a small content that really pays off in the long run. So I'm going to ask you a question. Think about this. How many times have you actually read a 10-plus page white paper, cover to cover, from beginning to end within the last 3 months? You tend to be brought to the specific pieces of it based on your behavior. You may not even know that the white paper serves as a basis for the certain tweets or blogs or the different information that you're accessing, because again, it's carved up into the size for you to access based on your needs and desires at that moment. So again, very personalized. Some of the drivers of this marketing change is the B2B buyer behavior. Buyers and the interactions that they're having are occurring more and more online. So it's not changing the length of the sales cycle or the buying cycle, it's actually shortening the time that salespeople have to influence the buyer, to influence their decision-making process. So the need to get out in front of them, the need to engage earlier in the process has never been higher. And those organizations are looking at skinnier and skinnier budgets. I know all of us are feeling this way. So we're really looking to make sure that those dollars that we have to spend are not only measurable, but we're also held accountable for them. So we're looking for direction in terms of where to make smart marketing investments. So with the buyer's ability to access, their preferring to access content digitally, it's about how do we get in front of them, how do we look at some of these digital channels that they're preferring to engage with, and to start to measure and understand which ones we should actually be investing in. With more and more of this interaction happening online, in fact, more than 60% of all leads are originally being sourced via inbound channels, and that's actually expected to rise to 71% this year. Our research is actually showing that B2B companies have doubled their investment in marketing technology during the last 5 years. This is to get in front and source those leads. So this includes things like marketing automation platforms and other technologies such as social syndication, events management. But it's also about looking to say, how do we engage the partner and leverage these investments so that partners are actually using the investment that we've made? And what we find is that marketing organizations that market to the buyer's journey, so it's the steps that a buyer goes through in their decision-making process, using integrated, not outbound, not inbound, but an integrated campaign using both of those tactics, create twice as much pipeline than those that do not. This is a powerful statement. Marketing organizations that market to the buyer's journey using those integrated multi-channel programs create twice as much pipeline than those that do not. And I don't know of any organization out there that doesn't want to create twice as much pipeline. So to get started, you need to understand the foundation of B2B buyer behavior. So this is a buyer's journey, and it's worth noting what the buyer's journey entails. This is SiriusDecisions' depiction of the buyer's journey and the stages a buyer goes through in their decision-making process. There are 3 phases of the buying decision-making process, each containing 2 decision gates the buyer passes through when making a B2B purchasing decision. The early stages of the buying cycle is all about education. It's during this phase that the buyer tries to understand a business problem or learn about an opportunity. And if buyers fail to recognize a need and not become educated, they may remain in a non-active pre-purchasing decision-making phase. So the buyer is really, and the challenge of this on us salespeople is to really look to loosen the status quo and get them to commit to a change and make the need to make a purchase of a technology or platform or service. In the middle stages, it's really about exploring your possibilities, so exploring possible solutions and then committing to a solution. And it's here where buyers examine the alternative ways to solve a problem or satisfy a need. This phase is not about determining a specific offering or solution, but it actually is instead is determining the offering category or type. So it's really about the best approach to fulfill the need and the appropriate pathway. So maybe build versus buy. And buyers are really focused on comparing all available options out there to find one that will really deliver the best result. And then the last stage is about vendor selection, and it's really about committing to that specific solution, so that one that is going to deliver the best result. So this involves financial justification, maybe an RFP, a business case. There's definitely an approval process going on. And the buyer is focused on getting final approval to make that purchasing decision. And so when we look at the buyer interaction, we need to look at buyer interaction patterns across these stages. And what we find is that there's a consistent shift in patterns throughout the process. And to understand what we mean by online interactions, it's really about the online digital versus offline, which might be paper sourced or sales interactions. So when you look at this and we think about the early, middle, and late stages of that buyer's journey that we just went through, there's a misnomer out there in the marketplace, and this becomes the digital imperative. So you may have heard organizations quoted as saying that 67% of the buyer's journey is now done digitally. People tend to think that this is all happening right there in the middle stages. But what our data has shown us, what we've collected through surveys, benchmarking with B2B organizations, we found that information gathering, the buyer's preference to access information and content and do their research digitally, is actually consistent throughout the buying process. So if you look at the numbers, you see it's consistent throughout the early, mid, and late stages. And this is really good news, because this also means that their preference for interacting with a salesperson or a partner is consistent also throughout the stages. So it's really about how do we get out there using these integrated messages and get out to in front of the buyers where they're doing their research, where they're looking for information. So it's about how do we become part of the buying cycle before they reach out to speak to a sales rep. And what we found is that through our research, we also go out and we talk to sales individuals, not just buyers. And we've had conversations with hundreds of salespeople. And what we find is that the mass majority of salespeople indicate that they tend to get involved right here in the middle where the X is. And this is their sales cycle. It does not encompass the entire buying cycle. And what we find is that organizations that begin at the education phase to start where buyers are really getting involved, where they're really starting their research using integrated marketing techniques and partnering with their marketing organizations, they are the real winners. So it's those organizations that look at this across the buying cycle and don't wait for the buyer to engage with them in, say, that middle stage where they're actually committing to a solution or justifying decision. That's where we see those organizations outperforming their peer set. So this is really exciting, as it's a great opportunity, or actually it's a requirement for marketing to become a strategic partner with sales during this process. And when we go and speak to sales individuals and ask them, what is your biggest challenge? We know that the buyer's preferences change, but what do you as a sales rep see as the biggest change in your sales cycle from your eyes? What they've said to us is that buyers are more informed by the time that they reach them and they have a conversation, that they want more information. They want specific, hard, concrete data type information earlier and earlier in the sales cycle. They want ROI data at the beginning of their sales cycle, not just when they're justifying a decision, and they're less likely to engage earlier in the process because they prefer to reference their network, to prefer to reference their peer groups, or to access information online. So it's not just about the salesperson who's going to educate the buyers anymore. It's really about identifying where they are at the right stage of the buyer's journey and serving up that right information to them. You don't want to go into a situation or an interaction with a buyer where they're already fully educated on all the possible solutions and start that education process all over again. This is not going to sit well, and it's certainly not going to help you convert opportunities. So when you think about where do we start to influence the buyer, where does buyer influence truly begin? It's really going to be about looking about where does the buyer go to obtain specific information. Where are they? When do they go? Where are they research differentiating sites? They may go to association sites. They may go to an influencer blog. They may even go to their own community, right, to access information. And so the imperative is to get your information out across these different areas, across these common watering holes. And as I said at the beginning, it's about serving up modular, digestible pieces of information. It's about getting that out into tweets, into blogs, making sure you're providing peer examples, because we know buyers are accessing their peer networks earlier and earlier in the sales cycle, and those types of content and messaging really resonates with buyers. But if we think about our partner community, this can be kind of daunting. It's important to note that all of these buyers and these prospects and their digital behavior, but it's also pushing this information to the partner's website and the partner's brand. And one of the competitive advantages that we see organizations take is they look at their digital preference. And when we've done our research, we've actually seen that as organizations or as buyers research products across the board, so this is transactional products to large integrated solutions, we find that on average they visit a website up to 12 times before making a purchasing decision. So if we think about that in our own life, I'll give you a quick story. What we see is that organizations, I think about my life and if I'm going out to purchase a vehicle, and I happen to have just done that and I purchased a Volvo. And the reason I did that was because I accessed my peer group and what was my need and what was important to me. That was safety. I'm the mother of 3 kids. I was in a car accident in a Volvo and it saved my life. So all of these things, the user, the safety messages, are all important to me, and I access my social and preferred watering holes. But when I went to purchase a Volvo, I didn't purchase it from the manufacturer's site. I actually went to a dealer, in effect a partner's website, and if I went to their website and their brand and I didn't see it resonating, I didn't see the same messaging, I didn't see their information out there in the marketplace, I would have gone to the next one. So it's critically important to help your partners start to influence prospective buyers, because they may not have the wherewithal to do this all themselves. And as we look, and we've talked about buyer behavior changing, it's important to note to think about how you sprinkle content out, how to make it available to buyers. It's also looking at what are the implications of this on marketing, and specifically partner marketing, from a marketing competency standpoint. So what's the implication in our businesses? As we look at the changes in the next 5 years or so, what we're finding is that B2B buyer behavior has evolved. We talked about search and being available digitally as critically important. So inbound, content optimization, outbound marketing, and the integration of these tactics is going to be increasingly a requirement to reach this elusive buyer. Today, we're finding that up to 50% of marketing program spend, the dollars that are spent on marketing programs, are actually going to be spent on digital, and that those programs are going to be designed to be not only inbound, but also on mobile at the first screen that they see. So the implication of this is you need to create and make sure you have competencies in social media, digital marketing, and even ultimately mobile marketing. Because this is not a new trend, and it's really about catching up with where people are. I'm sure it won't surprise you to know that over half of the total internet traffic now comes from mobile devices. And as we continue to look at this, customer marketing is also critically important. It's not just understanding the buyer's journey, but really understanding customer behavior. So you're going to continue to look at marketing as becoming more and more critical as we move forward, because it's about upselling and cross-selling and marketing to our customers, particularly if we're in a recurring revenue stream. So for solutions that have that subscription model, it's going to be even more and more critical. And so organizations are going to need to look at how do we build up customer marketing as part of our organization. And lastly, around enablement, it's not just about getting out there, making sure that you're getting the attention of buyers in the early stages of the buying cycle. It's also about creating enablement programs that go beyond just playbooks and help partner sales individuals really communicate that value message. One of the biggest inhibitors I mentioned before was reaching the buyer and converting opportunities. So it's really about creating the ability for sales to create value messages and increase sales effectiveness and efficiency. So this begs the question, if these are critical competencies we see a supplier and channel marketing need to build, how does this impact partners? They don't have the skill set, and they're going to look to the supplier or leverage some of these outside services agencies and platforms to really help up-level their skill set before they can catch up and close the gap. And lastly, I want to talk about some of those characteristics of high-performance marketing. So it's not really about replacing outbound tactics with inbound. It's about properly integrating these tactics. And what does that mean as it drives and increases program efficiency and effectiveness? So what we're going to see from an effectiveness standpoint is that you're going to need less inquiries. Because these inquiries are going to be nurtured by a combination of these tactics, both inbound and outbound. So you're going to need fewer leads to close an opportunity. From an efficiency standpoint, you're going to need fewer touches. So you will need fewer programs, and you're actually going to see your cost per lead is going to go down because you're going to be focusing on more not going to be focusing, I should say, on more of the costly outbound tactics as the only way to reach your buyer. And then what you're going to have is happier buyers and customers because they're going to want and prefer to access the information that you're providing. You're going to give this up and serve it into digestible pieces and the tactics and information in a way that they prefer to access. So they're going to continue to go down their buying cycle and be fully informed and find the information around your solution when they need it. So why is this so important, and what can organizations do? Well, you're going to need to help enable your partners because a significant number of B2B channel partners invest very little, if anything, in marketing. So you're going to need to enable these partners on the marketing trends and best practices and ensure that they have the capabilities to execute your supplier-created marketing program so that they can develop new leads for themselves. And there's also a lack of knowledge. As suppliers strive to expand sales by adding more partners, they're going to need to invest in one-to-many self-service tools that address partner marketing needs. But it's not merely just building these tools. It's not enough. You got to prescribe how, when, and where partners should use them and use the assets that they contain. So it's being very, very prescriptive about guiding them. What we find is as suppliers increase the marketing skills of their partners, you need to ensure the proper education and execution capabilities. And what we're finding is that these 6 critical components about demand type, targeting, buying process alignment, play execution, multi-touch and lead development, and oh, by the way, what's the ROI of our tactics? Suppliers are going to need to ensure that partners know where to find these information and how to access it. So, how do you bring this all together and arrange programs for partners? Now this absolutely looks a little daunting, doesn't it? So imagine if you were a partner and you had multiple supplier relationships and multiple products or offerings that you represent. I'm going to use a little analogy to explain what I mean by this. Imagine that you go into a restaurant and you order a veal marsala off the menu. But instead of bringing a cooked meal to the table, the waiter brings you a box of ingredients, maybe the veal, the marsala wine, the mushrooms, breadcrumbs, what have you, and gives it to you and asks you to whip up a meal. Now, I don't know about you, but I know that my meal would not be as good as if the restaurant themselves or a chef had made that meal. And so when we don't offer partners prepackaged menu-based plays, we just give them a list of ingredients or point them to a platform to use, we're literally doing the same thing to a partner. So it's not just listing out the ingredients. It's not just saying why we need to do things this way because buyers prefer to access information this way. It's about showing them and arranging programs for partners. It's assisting them and supporting them in their execution capabilities across the entire length of the buyer's journey. So I talked a lot about the changes that are going on. I talked about the implication it has in your organization. I want to leave you with a couple of takeaways before we move on to Randy's and Greg's portion of the presentation. I hope you have an understanding of the root causes that is happening there today and this shift from sales-led to buyer-led and the reasons and what's precipitating this need and how they want to access information and become more fully informed when they engage with a salesperson. It's also about how do you optimize your program performance and how do you align these programs, both inbound and outbound, so that partners can easily access and access these, but how do you also support them throughout delivering these across the buyer's journey? How do you guide them from a very prescriptive approach to using and leveraging the investments that you've made? And so again, I think about that restaurant analogy and think about the prescriptive guidance that not only educates partner on the shift of the buyer behavior, but supports their participation in and execution of the right integrated programs. And so having said that, I want to turn things over to Randy and Greg, who are going to provide some insight into what they are seeing in the marketplace and how they are aligning their solution. Randy, Greg?
Thank you, Maria. That was excellent. Just before we get started, what I wanted to do is just give a little background. For the last 15 years, A4 Vision has been transforming the channel, working with, this is just a short list of our partners, but helping these manufacturers to really develop partners and, more importantly, get them to execute. And more recently, in the last 8 years, what we've been doing is working with quite a few of our partners to really pioneer what I would think is the most forward-looking or forward-thinking co-marketing model in this industry. So when you listen to, or at least when I listen to what Maria is saying, what I hear is, or I guess what a manufacturer would hear is common sense, right? And you hear a lot of very simple, common sense things that programmatically should work. In working with partners, what we hear is complexity, right? That's what they're hearing. They're hearing a lot of complexity. So my objective in the second half of this program is to really provide you some reality, right? And give you some information that will help you to build your co-marketing programs and really, quite frankly, to help you avoid vendors selling you into a box or selling your program into a box, because marketing is a lot more than boxes today, okay? So just to give you a little bit more about who we are, we actually work with 19 clients, and we do a lot with regard to generating SQL, driving return on investment. We manage $5 million in MDF, and we get 99% of that spent. We work with programs where we drive 75% attachment rates. So the point of this is just to let you know that what we're going to bring to you is just reality. We deal with just about every significant partner in this country, in this region, and we hear what they say. We look at the way they want to execute, and it's all different. So Maria's veal marsala dish will require a different flavor depending on the partner and what they're trying to achieve. So let's just start with the trends. We talked about earlier in the agenda. There's 3 trends that I want to bring out to you that we're seeing today. Number 1 is really just the impact of disruption, right? We all know that technology is just a disruptive factor overall. Maria talked extensively about the buyer's consumption and really how they're changing the way they do business. But the most important thing for most of these resellers is that they need to stay profitable. And that's really a challenge for them. And what we're starting to see, interestingly enough, and it's just starting to happen probably in the last 6 months, is that we're starting to see partners who are redesigning their brand. They're starting to realize that the transformation starts with their marketing. It starts with their website. It starts with their messaging. It starts with how they reach out. And not all partners are doing this yet, but the fact is that some of them are starting to seriously consider and even going to RFP to try to figure out how to get this done. So what I wanted to do is just kind of show you one of the other trends that I think is really important for you as you build your programs. First is, Universally, partners are starting to accept marketing more and more. I can tell you as of 3 years ago, nobody really took marketing seriously. But now, not only are they acknowledging that marketing is important to their go-to-market strategies, but they're even now asking, what are you going to do for me? And when they're asking that, they're actually asking very specific questions that go down the road of strategy, consulting, execution, optimization. They're really starting to understand the power of marketing and what it means to their business. We're also seeing that partners are willing to make investments. They don't start out that way, and I know you probably see it as they always have the handout and they're looking for the money. But the reality is what we're seeing is that the partners who have a good experience are willing to co-invest more. They're willing to put in their own dollars for anything that works. A third trend that we're seeing here is the capabilities piece. This is really, really important for all of you who are manufacturers. Traditionally, we think of the larger VARs as having the most capabilities, the most infrastructure, and in some cases they actually do have the most infrastructure. But in some cases they're also, from a marketing capabilities perspective, they are the weakest of all of them. And we're finding that partners basically at every tier are starting to hire folks who actually understand marketing and are not just shaking the tin cup looking for money from you guys. They're actually engaged with the marketing, the brand, the sales organizations. A lot of partners are very, very conscious of their brands today. A lot of them are actually at the point where they're refusing to use manufacturer templates. It's growing, that number is growing quite a bit, and Greg will speak to that a little bit later, but it's something that you should be aware of as you're building your program. Aligning with sales. So a lot of partners are also, as we all know and kind of have been promoting, is that partners sell solutions. Well, in some cases, a lot of these solutions are multi-vendor solutions. So my message to you is it's okay to be a drag. I'm dating myself with that statement. But I'll give you an example. We have a storage client who understood that they were not necessarily the only game in town and they weren't the only part of a bigger solution. So what they did was they commissioned us to engage partners to sell multi-vendor solutions. And as an example, one of their partners actually led with Oracle. And that's what they did. They were dragging storage solutions into their Oracle sales. And as a result, we were working with a partner, and every time they closed an Oracle deal, they were bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars of storage solution with it. So partners want that capability. They need that capability. They need that flexibility. The last trend I want to talk about, and it's something that I can only vouch for the clients that we've been working with, the 19, is that those who've been working with us for more than a year, they are starting to get very focused on lead conversion. And what does that mean? Well, if you look at this triangle, it represents the buying process. And essentially, when you look at the past, marketing was basically filling the top of the funnel, and sales took over from there. So what's happened today is it's a little bit different, right? We have marketing stretching all the way down or coming all the way down to even into the evaluation stage. So it kind of aligns to what Maria was mentioning before about, you know, how do you market, how far down the funnel are you marketing, and how important is marketing to the engagement. So when you look at marketing today and you look at how do we convert leads, some of the things that we are trying to address with our clients is how do you identify what buyers are most interested? You know, so how do we get to those buyers who are actually, what projects are on their whiteboard? How do we get them to tell us that? We're also working with our clients to try to figure out how to keep the self-serve buyer engaged, especially as they come down the funnel as you're looking at here. They continue to do self-service type of due diligence. They continue to look at other vendors while they're engaged with you. And then lastly, how do we develop better nurture streams? Something that we're really focused on today with our clients, because nurture streams are surrogate salespeople in some cases. So this is a big, big focus for a lot of our clients today, is accelerating all those leads that we've uncovered and turning them into, or converting them into sales. So when you think about what partners want from your co-marketing programs, let's just start with this one. This is the first, infrastructure. So the first thing they need is they need a partner marketing manager, or Maria would refer to this as a chef, because the chef is the one who takes all the programs, the resources, the tools that you're providing for your partner community, and somebody has to put the ingredients into the frying pan or the pan and make that mix that makes the most sense for that individual partner's go-to-market strategy. They also want reliable vendors. And I can tell you, vendors change all the time. We happen to be lucky enough to be engaged with quite a few different vendors specializing in very different things, and there's new ones coming out every week. So they want reliable vendors. They want vendors who can actually perform, because believe it or not, I know partners use your MDF to do certain things, and sometimes we don't get the best results, and it seems like the partners don't care, but they actually do. They actually want vendors that actually are going to perform, so that they can spend their time on things that are going to be productive for their business. They also want marketing planning. A lot of partners, we were talking about how they're becoming more aware of marketing. They're starting to realize that doing a telemarketing play isn't really marketing when it stands alone. And what they're looking for is longer-term views, longer-term strategies, more consistency, something that is more comprehensive in nature, so that everybody in the organization can buy into the plan. They're also looking for customizable assets. So this is something that we were mentioning earlier. A lot of partners need to be able to customize your marketing assets. They don't want to just slap their logo on it or change a picture and make it seem like that's customized. To these marketers today and then going forward, it's about messaging, sophistication, visual content, stickiness. And the last thing they need is visibility into reporting, and I'm sure you do too. This is something that a lot of partners really have not been paying attention to, but when we can provide reporting on how each campaign and tactic are performing, it pulls the partners in so that they can be part of the metrics, the reviews, and more importantly, the optimization of their campaigns as they move forward. So now I'm going to pass this over to Greg and let him talk a little bit more about marketing-specific needs that the partners have.
Thanks, Randy. I'll start off by reflecting on some of the things that Randy talked about in the beginning part of amongst his first trends. The truth is that partners are accepting marketing more and more in their organizations, and that goes everywhere from the biggest bars in the nation down to the small son and father shops. And what comes with that theme is that one of the major things that they're expecting now is expertise. Maria mentioned, and partners know this too, that the use of integrated tactics is really what's going to help them generate more leads and pipeline, and that's becoming a well-recognized trait across marketing. So many manufacturers, so many thought leaders out there are saying that, and it's starting to reflect in what it is that a partner wants and expects from a co-marketing program. So, along with just general channel business and industry acumen, they expect your program and your partner marketing managers and the people executing that program to understand and know and can consult on marketing best practices, go-to-market strategies, marketing trends and vendors out there that are big and making a difference, and even ones that they've seen make a difference from their own standpoint. So it goes far beyond just program and funding resources and expertise. I reflect back to when I was a partner marketing manager with one of the biggest manufacturers in the country, and I remember that the hot program was saying, hey, Mr. Partner, here's a telemarketing play, and they're going to set you 2 appointments, and that's what everyone thought was good marketing. It's so funny how it's changed, and it's changed so rapidly. So, the visual that I'm showing here, I think, is a really good example. This is an example of really what partners are expecting, what's going to make them go, wow. I mean, even if you look and say, well, certainly my program offers some of these things, you know, again, going back to the chef reference, there needs to be a chef with the expertise and all the best practices to be able to put this together. It's not about anymore, you know, the idea of a concierge, which gets thrown around quite often in our industry, walking a partner through, pressing a few buttons in a platform, adding a logo here and there. What you're looking at is really what you need to do to make a difference to gain that mind share in the partner's organization to really help them make everything work and work well together. Can you go to the next slide, Randy? So the next thing that I'll talk about here is flexibility. So both Randy and Maria alluded to this in their portions of the presentation to this point, but you know, what you see here is a perfectly great overview of a manufacturer-branded piece of collateral about a solution or a product, which works very well for a partner, maybe if you know, they're providing it to their sales rep further down in the sales cycle for someone who's evaluating a product, maybe looking at different specs and things like that, or looking for different benefits. It may work, but if you think about how this might fit into different components or different pieces of the overall marketing funnel, this might not be something that works well to generate awareness. You know, someone who identifies they have a need for a specific or product solution might want to know more about use cases, benefits, differentiators, what's going on in the industry. So if we, you know, take a look here, this is a similar piece of content that talks to the same product or solution, but as you can see, it's so much more engaging. It takes advantage of the info that manufacturers provide about the product, but it allows the partner to provide their differentiators, tell their story, lead with their brand. So it's something they're very much more interested in using as part of their outbound marketing, their inbound practices, providing it to their sales team, and having a little bit more of a different look and feel than perhaps other competitors of theirs who may be putting out the same types of content.
And actually, can I add something to that? Sure. So since we're talking use case, what's really interesting is that we're finding partners when they develop this type of customized assets, the usefulness or the resourcefulness of these partners is really amazing, right? I mean, one of the partners took a similar infographic and put it in the area of the Beltway in Houston, put it up on a billboard.
Yeah.
Right? We saw other partners who took this, blew it up, and actually hung these types of infographic banners all over during an event and right in front of their or next to their demo units.
People even use them as placemats for their lunch and learn events.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you find some really unique use cases, and this is what gets partners excited. This is what has your program be memorable.
Yes.
So, you know, it's not just about being able to provide this funded for partners, you know, as long as you have a vendor or a third party capable of taking your assets and making them into something like this, that's really what's important. That's what's going to make the program memorable and driven for partners.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the biggest thing that we're seeing, and I think that you probably could have seen allusions to this throughout the entire presentation, partners' needs are moving significantly ahead of where most co-marketing programs currently are. And right now, it's a chase to gain that mind share and get programs where they need to be to make sure that they're bringing partners in, having them execute, and developing demand together. And that's one of the reasons why we've been so successful at what it is that we do, is because our marketing as a service model really provides the flexibility and ability for manufacturers to improve upon what it is they already have to make their co-marketing programs more effective.
Yeah, so I'll take over from here, Rick. So, yeah, I think that no matter where you are in your partner marketing program, no matter what types of tools, resources you have, you know, our objective is really to help you to scale that, right? Make it better, make it more effective. Those are the things that most clients are looking for, you know, because I think most clients know they don't have all the answers, and it's impossible because of how fast things are moving today that you can even attain all the answers at some point. So if you look at a marketing as a service model, right, it's really about being the chef. So what I mean by that is, you know, bringing together a model that creates lead consistency and drives better and warmer leads to the partner organizations is really what everybody wants, right? Well, it starts with having the right marketing models and using those as the foundation for how you go to market with partners. The second piece is best practices. You know, in our case, we have over 50 partner marketing managers who work with our 19 clients and thousands of partners out there. What's great about that is each of those individuals has their own experiences and has their own insights, and they find new ways to attack the marketplace with these partners, new strategies, new tactics. And what happens is, at least within our organization, is those best practices get shared, and we see that overall campaign performance increases because of it. Third part of a marketing as a service is really the platform. And I think this is an important piece because I know a lot of you do have platforms, whether you're happy with them or not. You know, that's a whole other story. But we deal with pretty much the most popular platforms. So we're power users of all the platforms in this industry. And I can tell you that all of them have different capabilities, and they actually all have different ways of meeting partner needs depending on what you're trying to achieve. So it's something that really we have the expertise to use each of your platforms to achieve or get the most out of that. Visibility into investments. I think this is something that a lot of you are looking for, but from our perspective, you know, I think it's important to provide partner engagement metrics, right? So you understand which partners are engaged, which ones are delivering pipeline. How do you use that information and marry it up to your revenue to determine who do we continue to make both short-term and long-term strategic investments in marketing with which partners? And the last piece is really the creative agency, and that's where Greg was just talking about that flexibility. That creative agency and I guess how nimble that agency is, how fast they are, how customized, how out of the box they can get with a partner is so crucial to these partners who are leading the charge and really attacking the market with marketing. So overall, this is what a marketing as a service model for our company looks like. And again, no matter where you're at, what components you have or don't have, our job is with this model is to really fill in the gaps for you and get the most out of what you have today. So let me give you a simple example to give you an idea of what our experiences look like. So this is one of the more notable software manufacturers in our industry. And essentially, what we're doing is we're covering all levels of the channel. So at the national level, you know, we cover on a scale of 1 to 7. So we can cover 7 national partners because we're virtual, and that number is about the right ratio. When we get to that strategic partner, right, the national or the regional partners or the big in-state partners, you know, that number goes to about a 1 to 20 ratio. And then as we get to that unmanaged or distribution partner, we can cover that at a 30 to 1 model. And mind you, this is all high touch, right? This is not, like Greg was mentioning, that concierge type of service where we're just telling people to push buttons. We're actually having one-on-ones. We're actually meeting biweekly. We're having strategies. We're aligning to sales. We're trying to get everybody together so we can, on your behalf, attack the marketplace and do the best marketing for all of us. So what were the results? So this particular client, what we were able to do is out of, I believe it was 170 partners, we got 140 to execute marketing with us and 107 reported opportunities, as you can see here on the left-hand side. And as a result, in the first year, we generated $110 million in sales qualified leads. So that's partners telling us that they met with the prospects and this is what the opportunity truly is after meeting with them. So hopefully that concludes our conversation. Laura, do we have any questions?
We did receive one question, Randy. Does A-Fluent Vision help identify viable vendors?
Yes, actually, of the things that I'm happy to do for you, if you are, for example, in the middle of trying to identify whether your platform is the right platform for your partner needs, we're happy to meet with you, free of charge, just consult with you, talk to you a little bit about what you're trying to achieve, which platforms will help you to achieve those types of goals, and really help you to make that decision. We won't influence and tell you who to buy from, but we can at least tell you from a user perspective what their features, what their strengths are, what their benefits are, what their weaknesses are.
Fantastic. And one more question we received, Randy, was how long on average does it take to launch your marketing as a service programs?
So depends, but they can be as short as 30 days depending on the size, and they can be average 45 days to get it up and running.
Wonderful. With that, everyone, it concludes our presentation for today. A recording of this presentation will be made available to all attendees. Thank you so much for attending the Give Your Partners What They Need When They Co-Market with You from Affluent Vision and SiriusDecisions. If you have any questions, Randy's contact information is up on the screen right now. We look forward to speaking with you. Have a great rest of your day.